Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video I am going to be creating story number 15 and 16 inside of my October Daily 2021 album. We're going to start today with story number 15, which is my Halloween or October playlist. When thinking about how I wanted to document this particular story, the idea that I landed on was to create my own paper version of a CD with the paper or cardboard cases that they sometimes would come in, and then to have a sheet that goes along with the quote-unquote CD that lists out all the different songs that would be on that particular disc. I listed out my top eight favorite songs, and those are on a page that I will pull over here shortly to show you. And then I created my own cut file for this CD. So there are two of the pieces in that silver kind of holographic looking paper that was from a Paige Evans explosion box paper pack that came from Michael's, gosh, back in the summertime, I want to say. And then I have a couple of files that go on the top piece that are going to act like the disc art that would have been on the top of the CD to say who the band was or what songs were on there. A lot of CDs have that portion on it. And then there are two smaller pieces that go in the center to mimic the iridescent or the see-through area that you would have at the very center of a CD. And then there's often this black ring around that right before the CD art. So that's the top side. The bottom side, I added the holographic little thin piece at the very center of the circle, and then the dark black around the outside, so that when you flip it around, it's as though, it carries through to the back. I love the way that this turns out, and I will go back and actually stamp out a title on top of the CD, but for now I'm going to set it aside and work through some different pieces of this layout. That CD cut file is something that I gave all of my patrons, so if you're looking for something like that, you are also welcome to pick that up over on my Patreon, but my Patreon, just so you know, is a subscription monthly exclusive group, so to say. So a lot of times I will offer my templates or my cut files as bonus content over there, since I'm creating them anyway, might as well. So that's where that can be found. For the inside of the cover here, so I'm going to be creating a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square that's going to hold the CD and the inside, quote unquote, pamphlet that has all of the songs listed on there. What I did is I cut out two pieces of pattern paper that were the same pattern in the 4.5 by 4.5, and then I cut out another pattern at 3.75 or 4.25. Let me think about this for a second. It's 4.5 by 4.5. So it's 4.25 by 3.5 is, I believe, the sizing. And I will hold it on my mat to verify that sizing. I probably already did that. So what I did is I rounded the corner that's going to be kind of in the middle of the page, and then I will later stitch those sections together to create the pockets that will hold the CD and the pamphlet. For the pamphlet there, I used a couple of digital files to create this. The border around the outside came from a card that I got a couple years back from the digital press. It's one by Rachel Etong, something like that. I'll try to link that down in the description box for you in case you're looking for it. And then I used the Halloween stamp and the music stamp digitally that came from Allie Edwards. Halloween was from an older October Stories by the Month kit, and music, as well as the little sentiment underneath that says on repeat. Those are both from the Listen story stamp that I have digitally. I added my 8 favorite songs, numbered them 1 through 8 with alpha stickers, and then stamped a broom at the bottom from the Cocoa Daisy stamp set from this Halloween collection this year. I just wanted to fill in that white space. It felt a little funny with nothing in there, so it worked out this way. So now for my CD here, I pulled back out my Heidi Swap Caution Alpha stamp. This is definitely a favorite this month. I'm so glad that I splurged and got this. I am going to stamp the title, "This is Halloween," around the orange circle there on the CD. It's not, or it's going to fit, but there's actually going to be a little space left at the end where it's blank, and that kind of bothered me. So I picked out a stamp from the Cocoa Daisy stamp set again, and this time it's like a potion bottle, and stamped that in between the words Halloween and this. Halloween and this. So the potion bottle goes there. I also probably could have pulled out some like cardstock stickers, and maybe a black star or something could have gone there as well, but this works out just fine. So that is the title around my CD disc. So now I'm going to adhere them back to back so that it's just one piece that will pull out of the pocket. And that makes this interactive and fun, which is something I love to do in my holiday themed albums. There is the disc. Now that I have that part done, let's move on to my title card. So my title card is going on the back side of my previous day's story, which was the favorite Halloween color combination. I had a 3x4 card that I added just into the top portion of my Life Crafted album, but it's outside of the page protector. So I need to put something on the back side, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to pull out some stamps, pull out some alpha stickers, and create a title that just says My Halloween Playlist. I added a haunted house stamp from an older Kelly Purkey stamp set. I believe that was the 2020 holiday mini kit that she released. So I have that, and then I pulled some stickers from my Hey Pumpkin leftovers. One is a ghost, and he looks like he's coming out of the house, and another one is a black crescent moon that I put up in the sky, and I will eventually fill in the bottom space with an orange pumpkin, so that it looks like it's sitting next to the house, and help to fill that in just a little bit more. Then I'm going to adhere this, which I printed this, or I cut this piece of cardstock down to about 3.75 by 2.75, so I could add it onto this starry patterned card and have that be a border around the outside. I really like the way that that looks. And then we'll go ahead and start putting my title on here. Originally, I was going to add the alpha stickers for my entire title, so have it say My Halloween Playlist. But very quickly, I figured out that Halloween was not going to fit with those particular alphas. They're a little bit too wide. And so I went through some of my older stamp sets and pulled out my I want to say this is 2020. It could have been 2019. Actually, it might be 2019. Allie Edwards Stories by the Month kit from October. And there is the word Halloween that is in this font that's super cool. It's like an outline font, but it's a little bit wonky, kind of. I mean, it just looks kind of whimsical to me, which is something that I've very much enjoyed adding into this album this year. So I'm going to stamp the word Halloween with black ink right underneath the word My, and then I'll fill in the rest of the title playlist using those alpha stickers yet again. And I actually really, really like how this turns out. I think this is even better than if I had used all of the alpha stamps, because it gives it alpha stickers. I keep saying stamps. Stickers, because it gives it a little bit more variety. I love the way that the mixed fonts look. So here's where we're going to fill in the rest of this. And then once I have this done, I am going to take a look at the card and figure out some of the other blank spots that I might want to fill in. So up by the word My, I decide that I can grab this flying bat that's also on the Cocoa Daisy stamp set and add that with black ink up in the top right corner. And I like the way that that fills in, and also brings some of those like picture icons up to the top of the little tiny layout as well. And then you can see I have my Hey Pumpkin stickers that I still have. And then I also will bring over my Heidi Swap puffy stickers to find a pumpkin that's going to work. The Hey Pumpkin ones end up being just a little bit too big, and the Heidi Swap ends up being a little more perfect. So that's where I'm going to go, is the Heidi Swap Orange Pumpkin. We'll stick that on there. And then this little card is done. Super, super love it. So this I'm going to stick on the back side of the previous day, and you'll see that here in just a minute. But first, let's assemble the CD case. So for this, I wanted this to be kind of like, I don't know, some CDs used to come in the plastic cases, and some of them came in like a cardstock case. So that's what this one's going to mimic, is the cardstock ones. You can see how I rounded the edge there from earlier in the process. And now what I'm going to do is stitch them along the two edges. I'm going to show you a close up here to show you where I'm going to stitch. And then that corner up there will act as a section where you can slide something into it. So we've got that stitched on there. I used my black thread with my sewing machine. I chose to stitch it instead of using score tape because I'm going to have some things shoved down inside of those pockets. And what I have found over the years is that when you use score tape to close those sections in, oftentimes whatever you have in the pocket will slightly stick to the score tape, and then it just is a little harder to pull things out and put them in. So I decided to stitch instead. That way I don't have to fuss with any of that. Now that I have that part done, we're going to put these onto a hinge. I cut down a piece of copy paper to 2 inches by 4.5 inches. That way it can be the right height to cover both of these sides. I stuck it down to one side of the hinge, so I just took that piece, folded it in half so that each section was 1 inch by 4.5, and then laid the second section on top of the first and pulled the hinge down on top of it. So that way it leaves that little itty bitty bit of gap that it needs in order to close fully when not in use. Once that's done, we're going to add score tape to the back sides. This way I can attach the photos, or I can attach the whole thing to the piece that will hold it inside of the album. For that, I trimmed a piece of, I want to say it's gray. Yes, it's gray on one side and like a really dark gray, and orange on the opposite side. So that I cut to 5 inches by 4.5 so that I can hole punch the edge of it and have this whole thing sit right inside of my album. Once I have it attached there, I just undid the score tape from the back side, stuck it directly on top of the piece that's going to go in the rings, and then we will add the score tape to the top portion as well, so I can put one of the photographs of the album covers on top. I did hole punch it so it can go directly in the album. And yeah, all I have left to do is to figure out which picture I want on the front and which picture I want on the back. So this is where I'm going to pull over my album, kind of see how everything looks in here when I get it in here. That is me signifying that the next layout I have is a full page layout. So all of that white space in the upper right hand corner of my album will be filled in with whatever the story is that comes next. So here's where I'm kind of debating on the two album covers that I have here. The pictures that I chose are both from Voice Play, which is an a cappella group that I am just in love with this Halloween season. They do all kinds of covers of different songs, and in particular have a ton of Halloween themed songs. They also dress up for them and have a full-on production for all of the different songs that they have. So I've pulled out the cover that is the Oogie Boogie Man song, which is one of my absolute favorites. And then I also have the This Is Halloween cover as well. So what I want to do here is to look at the different photos that this is going to be up against and figure out which one has the best color, like across the board, and then also which one has room where I can add my number 15 to designate this as story number 15. I went ahead and added the title card, my Halloween playlist, on the back side of the previous day's card so you could see how that works. Just added some score tape and then taped it back to back. And then for the title pieces or the cover of the album here, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the score tape backing and stick down Mr. Oogie Boogie's song cover. I like that one the best. And then I can add my number 15 into the bottom left corner. And then the back side is where I'm going to add the other photo. So it looks kind of like a full album here from beginning to end. And then my next day can just be the full page photo or full page story that will come next. So once I add this number into the bottom left corner there, this layout will be done. So we'll stick it back in the album so you can see how it all goes together. And then we're going to move on to story number 16. For story number 16, I want to tell the story about the places that I would never, ever in a million years stay overnight. So what I did for this one, I have a full page of journaling here. This is printed on plain white cardstock, 5 inches by 8¼ inches. I have 4 blocks of text there that relate to the 4 different photos I've printed out. These 4 photos I got from a free stock image website, and I just Googled or didn't Google, but I searched in the search bar for the different places that I knew I would never stay overnight, which are a dark and/or haunted forest, an abandoned building, a haunted house, or a haunted hotel/hotel room. Those are the 4 places. So what I'm going to do is create little flip-ups with the photos. And this took me a hot second to figure out how to make this work. What I wanted to do was have them washi taped so that there's a little bit of color underneath there. It's not just a whole bunch of text and that's it. But getting them straight and lined up with each other proved very difficult. Plus, for whatever reason, I just couldn't get them to stay on straight. So I will eventually take these off and figure out a different solution for how to get them down on the page. I also had considered just adding the the washi tape to the top of the photo and sticking it directly down onto the page, but really didn't like how that looked either. So, sometimes it just forces you to be creative and come up with different solutions, and that's not a bad thing. I added some of my Tim Holtz trim tape, which is something I'm also really loving this season. There are 2 different washies in that tape pack that have pinked edging. One is black and one is silvery and looks kind of like sheet metal. So I used the silver one to go down the edge and then hole punched on top of that. So that gives the side of this spread a little bit of interest. And then here is where we're going to figure out how the heck to put these on the page without making everything uneven. So what I'm going to do is add a tiny little bit of roller adhesive to the bottom of all of those photos and stick them in place where I want them to go. Once they are stuck down, I'm then going to take the washi tape and trim off a piece that is roughly the size of that top edge. I will stick the tape down in between the page and the photo so that it sticks onto the back side of the photo, trim off the excess, and then fold it under and stick it down. So let's look at the process now as it's happening, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. First, I wanted to make sure everything was nice and even. It was hard to get it all perfectly even, but whatever, it's all good enough. So here's where we're gonna do it. So now we got those photos stuck down. Here, I'm gonna take the washi, slip it behind the photo, press down so that it's on there. And then I need to cut off the excess right there at the edges. And once that's done, I can turn this back around, fold that washi tape underneath and stick it down onto the paper, pressing it to seal it. Now this is going to hold everything just fine, but because I want these albums to last a long time, I'm actually going to pull out my sewing machine a little bit later and stitch on top of the washi, which seems a little, in excess, but like I said, I want these to last a long time, and I know that washi's not going to last forever, so That's what we're going to do. I'm going to skip over the rest of them here. We don't need to see this done a million different times, but I figured you might want to see it done twice in case this is something you want to try doing too. And then once everything is stuck down nicely, I'm going to peel up the bottom part of those photos, rub off the excess glue there so that they can be flip ups and not adhere down. And then try to figure out what else I want to do with this layout. I know for sure I want to add something to the bottom there where there's a bunch of white space. I'd like to fill it in with something that can give it a little bit of interest down there. For whatever reason, I like to have stuff on the very bottom of my spreads. It just helps it to feel finished. So it bothers me when there's too much white down there. And that's why I'm going to figure it out. And then I also know that I want to add some kind of title up at the top. So I will be bringing back out my Heidi Swapp Caution Alpha stamps and creating a title for my layout. Because these are going to be flip ups and it's a little difficult to get the photos and pull them up, I grabbed over 4 of these little tiny Avery sticky tabs or Avery index tabs that you can just stick to your photo or your paper. I am going to go through some of my Heidi Swapp tiny phrase stickers and find some that can go on the insert pieces, and then I will stick those to the bottom of the photos. But before I do so, I decide that I actually want to do something to the underside of these photos as well. So we'll get there in just a little bit. Here's where you can see that I've added one more strip of washi there at the bottom. This one is old. I want to say I got it from Michael's or Target maybe 3 years ago, but it is a pattern of bats. And I thought that that was really cool and spooky for a spread about places that are so scary I would never want to stay there overnight. So that worked out for me. I stuck that there at the bottom and called that good. Here's where I'm going to go ahead and fill in all of those Avery tabs with words like haunted or haunting and spooky and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Things that just seem to work well enough for this layout. I go to stick one on there and then decide, you know what, actually, I kind of want something underneath my photo too. Like it just feels a little too flimsy. So I grabbed over 4 different pattern papers that I had scraps of, cutting them down to, I believe it's 2 inches by 3 inches is how big I printed those photos. And so how much of the pattern paper I need underneath. I have a couple, and they might actually all, no, they're not all. A couple of them are from the Hey Pumpkin line from a couple years back, the top 2, the one that says Eek, and the black cats right there. And then the one in the bottom right corner, which is a black and white spider web, is from the Heidi Swapp Halloween collection this year. And the one that is kind of a creamy white, almost like a grayish white with bats flying on top of it, that is from the Cartabella Halloween Market collection from last year. So just, you know, grabbing a bunch of scraps out, and I figured that I wanted to keep these to the black and white colors since that's really mostly what's in the photos on the front side as well. It just kind of adds to the spooky effect. The nice thing is having the bottom side finished on top of the washi is going to make that washi a little bit more secure. So later when I stitch it down onto the page and then have the paper holding it on the upper side, it's very unlikely that those are going to fall off the page in the years to come. So that's actually kind of nice as well. I did go ahead and stick the Avery tabs down on the bottom of those photos. And before we get into the stitching, I'm going to grab out some inks. I'm going to be using 2 from scrapbook.com. One is Orange Spice, and the other one is the lighter orange that I can't remember the name of. Pumpkin cream, maybe? Something like that. Or orange cream? Might be orange cream. So I wanted to use both of the colors here to highlight specific words. So I stamped the word never ever in the dark orange and would I in the lighter orange. So my title says never would I ever, and then ... for, you know, telling the story. For my number, I didn't have a ton of places where I could put my number 16, so I grabbed these little tile alpha stickers and picked the 1 and 6 to add up right above that very first photo, which is fine. And then the last thing I'm going to do for this one is to go ahead and stitch on top of the washi that's on the background paper. And this is going to give this a really, really strong hold, like I said, so hopefully it won't fall off in the years to come. This prompt was actually a really fun one to think about, and that's something I've really enjoyed this year, is sitting down and working through some creative writing prompts instead of just our day-to-day comings and goings and, you know, the things that we have going on. I have really enjoyed thinking a little bit deeper about the spooky season. Well, friends, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this process video, and if you did, I would love a thumbs up down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future crafty videos, and I'm going to be back later in the week with a couple more layouts in this October album. Can't wait to share those with you. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next videos. Bye, friends.